Well, I'm going to say it wrong.
Jeremiah's hamburger.
No, Jeremiah Schamberger.
Isn't it Jeremiah's
Or is it
hamburger?
Jeremiah's hamburger?
Oh.
5932.
Sorry.
We're going to go with both. Both are correct. Welcome back to Donslife.
Welcome to the channel.
I just about said it for you. Thanks for joining today. Today's video is a follow-up for a couple things. So I put a video out a couple weeks ago about some window shopping I was doing because eventually I'm gonna have to get a new truck for the channel. I'm not there yet, but I will be addressing it in the questions. So we're using this video as a way to answer a number of questions that you've sent my way through the channel, through the comments, through emails. So we're gonna tackle that today, but we can't do it alone. We're gonna do it with the help of Mrs. Donslife. So what do we say?
Let's go.
She did it. So thanks again for being here. In the comments, people have been saying that you don't mind seeing more of Mrs. Dawn's life and being involved with the channel. And the fact of the matter is, we're spending more time together, I think, because our kids are starting to explore their adult lives because they're graduating university and things like that. So bittersweet, but that means Mrs. Dawn's life has a little more time to have a little more active role on the channel. So
y'all are stuck with me.
Yeah, you may or may not see more of her depending on how your treatment is. So let's start with answering these questions. So how about you start off and I'll answer as best I can.
Okay, so this question is from Dwayne H 2291, and he asks, how about revisiting previous mods on the AT4 and see how they're holding up after a Canadian winter or two? Oh, do you know about our Canadian winters? Everything works great when it's new, but what about a year or two later? Which mods held up and which ones fell apart? What broke when you went to use it at -30? What mods do you regret? What ones are the best value? Just a few questions, LOL. Thanks for your videos. I have the 2023 AT4, LOL.
So I made myself some notes so I'd be prepared to answer these questions as best I could. So mods that failed, I have my hood light switch, which I've talked about in a couple of videos. I switched it out a couple times now. I have a different switch in place. Seems to be better, still not great quality. If I really wanted it to last forever, I could put in a different switching system, but the one that I put in there is just an Amazon special, but just a little more special than the last junky one. But I did have a failure with my original tailgate lighting strip. When I installed my first Putco blade, I talked about how that one had failed, and it had a lot to do with the wiring and the trailer sensing technology that exists in these trucks. So that's more why it failed, because of the way to integrate it into these higher tech vehicles just wasn't there. So sometimes just beware, if you buy something really cheap off the internet, it may work well on an old 78 Chevy pickup, but it may not work well on something that's a little more technically, what's the word I'm looking for, picky, if you will, than a lot of the older vehicles with their 12-volt systems. Now, mods that I've had trouble with in our Canadian winters, so say -30 to -40 Celsius or -40 Fahrenheit for that matter, I haven't had any lighting issues. You actually have a lot of problems with like the infotainment screen. The display in the infotainment system needs to warm up and it's not really showing anything or is unresponsive. So that has to warm up sometimes. But when it comes to mods that I put on, well, obviously the electric roll track cover from EGR, and I've talked about this in videos, when it's -30, -40, if there's heavy snow or ice buildup, it will not open. It's got protections that will stop it from burning out the motor. So if it senses too much resistance, it'll just shut off. And I'm okay with that. I know what to expect. If I know I need to have access to the box, I could park in the garage for a few hours and let it thaw out, and then it would be fine for days, unless we have a ton of snow or rain and that type, or not rain, but ice that builds up on it again. So that's something to keep in mind. But I'll be honest, most of the mods that I do, I really try to be as thoughtful as possible and install things meant to last. I don't want to be replacing something every 3 to 6 months. I try to put things on there that are going to last. So regrets, no regrets, but there are some mods that once I put them on, it means I'm excluded from trying any others. So that's one thing. You have to really decide what mod you want to put on. I'll use an exhaust as an example. I have my Borla S-type exhaust. Now if I wanted to try, say, a Corsa exhaust, well, I have to completely get rid of the Borla system to put on something else. So you go down one path and it may be difficult to come back and go down another. So just think of that when you're modding things, that once you make a choice, that might be the one that you're stuck with for a while. Long-winded answer, but I think that I answered the question.
Makes sense.
Okay, we have the next one, and I like this one from Keith Walker 5164. Buying first home, please share your experience and any helpful advice. Thanks, love the channel.
So we'll tag team this one, but we started small. So our first home together was quite small. We transformed a closet into a bedroom for our youngest.
It wasn't like a closet, but it was like a storage closet.
It was like a storage closet. It wasn't like a coat closet.
For our second youngest.
You could walk into it and there was a window and all that. So before you start judging.
It was the width of a crib lengthwise.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's how small it was.
But it worked. What do they care, right?
Yeah.
It worked out. But here's kind of where I'm going with this. So we started small and we made improvements to most of the rooms. We put new flooring in there. We put I don't know if we did carpet or not, but I know we painted and window treatments and things like that.
Yeah, we did new carpet.
We tried to do things with mass appeal to the next buyers. So if we went to sell the property, which we did, we were in a position then to upgrade to another. So then we got our first home that was at the stage where the builder would still allow us to pick a lot of the finishings and things like that. So we got that house to be the way that we wanted for our growing family. And then we made the leap to move provinces. So like in the States, you'd move states. Career opportunity, which I took. And again, that home that we were in, we had done some things that were custom, but not too custom, that it would only appeal to, a few people here and there. So we had I shouldn't say we had no problem selling that house, because it was also, the market was soft at that time. But either way, the whole point of this, without getting too long-winded, is the improvements that we chose, I think, were calculated and strategic, that it would appeal to the next buyer. So we would get, more people bidding on the property, which we did. What I'd recommend not doing is don't put, as an example, a $50,000 kitchen into a $250,000 home. There might be somebody that wants it because of the dream kitchen that you put in there, but chances are you will not recuperate the money that you put into that kitchen. What I can say, if you're buying for the first time, if I was buying for the first time now, I think about it for my kids. They're not quite there yet, but one does have a house, but do a couple things first. Calculate if you can afford it, or the payments, the mortgage, for worst case scenarios. What if you lose your job, or interest rates get out of control like they have been for a while? Can you rent out a room or a basement if you needed to, if things got really bad? And then, what would it be like if you had to sell it in 6 months? Would you be underwater, meaning would you be negative equity? Would you have lost because you had to pay your realtor fees and things like that, and all of a sudden you have to sell this thing at a $50,000 loss? Like, think of those things first before you sign that dotted line. That would be my advice. Am I wrong? Am I right?
No, I think you got it.
I got it. This next one's from my friend Mark Manning, 5683. Mark
We've
comments
talked to him
a lot.
before.
Yeah, he's a great guy. Hey Don, I made this request before, and I know you have given it some thought and looking for a high quality provider of this item. Looking for a new round Donslife window sticker for the back window. Now when he says new round, it's because when I launched the channel, I had a different logo. It was more cartoonish. It had like a DL and said Donslife under it. That's the OG logo, but the new one has the AT4 on top with the Corvette on the bottom. The reason I've designed it that way, and we'll get back to the sticker thing in a second, is because as new vehicles cycle through the channel, I can actually change the vehicles that are on those logos to kind of line up with whatever we're doing at that time. So I thought it was clever. Could be wrong, I don't know, but that's what I'm rolling with. Now, as for the window sticker, and the one that he's specifically talking about is the logo like I have for my garage wall, with the blue and the red and the circle around it. So where are we with that? I'm gonna turn it over to you.
Well, good news is that we have sort of maybe found a supplier that can do these. We just need to find one specifically that will ship to the US and Canada and not charge more for shipping than the stickers are worth. So I'm still working on that, but I did put
There is one on there.
Yeah, I did put some on there. I'm not sure how big you're looking for, but I think there's a few different sizes to choose from. So if you do get one, let us know. I think they're easier to get in the States than they are for us to order them here, but our next sample order, we're gonna order some.
Yeah, and then we'll know the quality, but we just don't know because we can't sample everything ahead of time in every situation. So some brave buyer, maybe it's Mark, will have to try one out and let us know and give us the feedback. And if it's terrible, well then hit me up on email and we'll talk about it.
We'll fix it up. Okay, the next one is from Peter Butler, 2539, and he asks, Denali or AT4? I just paid off my 2022 Sierra 1500, but I'm looking to upgrade at this point. Love the videos and hope all is well.
So that's a difficult decision. In my notes here, I had put down the AT4X or the Denali would be my most likely comparison now. I can always lift the Denali to be similar to what the AT4 is, or the AT4X, you know, is already a step in the right direction. So based on that, I think the AT4X is where I'm leaning because of the stance, and it's already got that rugged look that I fell in love with building my current AT4. But I love the Denali. I like the idea of the massage seats with both of those trim levels have, but I also don't want all the chrome. I know I can get the Denali Ultimate and it will have all the blacked out trim, so I don't know. They've made it too hard.
Okay, this next one is from the Mega Dumpful. Are you ever concerned with warranty issues with all the mods, especially electrical, that you've put on your truck? Also, have you ever modded, or is it possible to change the headlight startup sequence? I love the 2500 startup sequence and have no idea if that's possible to replicate on the 1500 models. That one is definitely for you.
So I'll start with the headlight startup sequence. To my knowledge, no, you can't do a retro conversion to the style that I have. For an example, it would have to be something that was designed to do that from the factory. So ours just turn on or turn off when it comes to the DRLs as an example. Now for me, I've always been more concerned with mechanical warranty as opposed to electrical, specifically for me doing mods. Most of my mods, if you really study the way that I've done them, I've designed them to be isolated in most cases, meaning that if they fail, they don't take another system down with them. They're fused, they're isolated, they're outside the electrical system that the truck, you know, is responsible for managing. There are a couple installs that I've done where I've interfaced with the body control module, but I'm not really comfortable doing anything that is going to tamper with the ECU, with the main brain of the truck. But with the body control unit, at least what I can do is I can deal with a blown fuse here and there, or with my Boost Auto mods as an example, with the turning on, you know, the fog lights to come on with the high beams as an example. It will report a low-level code. If I go and do a scan and look at all the codes and the faults, it'll just say that this circuit turned on when it wasn't intended to, but I know why. It's because of the mod that I put in place. But to answer your question, I'm more worried about mechanical issues than I am about electrical, because everything that I've done was with intent not to put the current electrical systems at risk, or at least minimize it. That's my answer.
Okay, this one is from Fabian Joe 4X. What is your dream car?
Well, depending on when you ask me that question, it would change. So if I go back to my high school days, I had a 1967 Chevelle Malibu, not an SS. It was convertible. I loved that car, got a lot of attention, the right kind of attention. Starting my family though, I did have to move on and part ways with it. However, my modern day dream car was the Audi R8. It's probably not a surprise to many of you, because I've talked about it in the past. If you go back to some of my most cringe videos in the beginning of this channel, they are talking about Audi R8s, and I even test drove a V10 manual. It was a 2010, I believe, and I was reluctant to pull the trigger, and then the market went up and away. So I was not able to get one at the time. Now, this changes a little bit because with my YouTube micro success, I'd say at this point, it has afforded me a C8. I'm surprised nobody's ever asked me, like, what can you make, you know, from YouTube earnings and things like that. I'm prepared to talk about it, but nobody's asking, so you're probably not interested. But I can tell you this, it affords me the payment for that C8 and its insurance and its fuel, all from the work I put into this channel. So thank you to the viewers for that. I couldn't have done it without you. Who knew that recording my hobby and sharing it with others and trying to make it somewhat educational could allow me, very entertaining, could allow me to expand my horizons with this. So maybe a Generation 2 Audi R8, maybe it's a Z06 Corvette. Like, I don't really know. I want them all, to be honest. So what's holding me back from doing other projects beyond, you know, 3 vehicles right now is I don't have the space. We'd have to look at getting a different property than the one that we're on if we were to get more cars that needed to be stored indoors. So that's my answer.
Okay, this one is from Lone Star AT4. Do you ever plan on getting a lift kit on the AT4?
So not likely, and it has 2 reasons. So one, we're 3 years into ownership of the truck. There's a question coming up about, you know, getting another truck, so I'll wait for that. I'm not going to say it's impossible, it's highly unlikely, but my reasoning, other than, you know, I might be getting a new truck at some point, nothing's planned 100%, honesty there.
I think he's saying that to me.
So location and climate are part of the reason why I haven't lifted my AT4. Some of you are not going to understand this because you don't live where I live. I refuse to give up my auto 4-wheel drive feature. We have so much inclement weather with random ice, freezing rain, snow, then it's warm again, then it's snow, that feature, that auto 4-wheel drive, is a godsend. It's really, really good and it works really, really well. And I don't want to keep my transfer case in 4 high all the time or more often than I need when we have patches of ice for 60 feet at the end of our street, and then we have none for 100 feet, and then we have another patch again of 100 feet of ice. We just really like having that feature and it gives us a lot of extra control. And if I was to lift the truck any higher, I'd have to do a front differential drop, and that's a big kit and a bunch more cost, and I'm not really willing to go there. So those are my answers because of where I live and where I'm at with the life cycle of the truck and the amount that I use the auto 4-wheel drive. And you use it in your Escalade all the time. Can you imagine not having it?
No.
No, you wouldn't like that. So call us whatever you want to call us, but I think that is a good answer because it's honest.
Okay, this one is from Michael Thayer, $69.95. Hey Don, love the channel. You may have covered this, but I couldn't find it. I know you use L9 to prevent DFM from engaging, but does tow, haul, and drive work too? Thanks and keep up the stellar content.
Before I answer, you've been driving my truck a lot more. When I was wrapping her truck, we had to do it in stages over multiple days. So she was driving my truck daily and she decided, what's this L9 all about? I gotta try this L9. So tell, what happened there? Why L9?
I wanted it to be louder, so I sounded meaner.
Did you want to do your impression of what L9 sounds like?
No.
You were doing it without any shame before, in front of us.
Yeah, in front of family.
It was some roaring. Just imagine lions coming out of that mouth. But she kept squealing the tires,
Yeah,
like
not
laying a
chirping,
patch.
not chirping the tires. I literally couldn't stop squealing the tires.
She was smoking them. So anyway, L9, I didn't know that's what it did. I thought it disabled DFM, but apparently you can not only chirp the tires, but you can roast the tires. Well, from my understanding, tow haul mode does not stop DFM from engaging. It will still engage, and that's because you are working the engine harder. It's under more load. It's going to need more cylinders to have that extra power ready to be delivered. However, you probably would only notice it, AFM or DFM in this case, engaging when you are coasting and maybe the trailer's pushing you a little bit. But even on the downhill with some of the engine braking that these engines can provide, when you're in tow haul mode, you're not going to shut it off. DFM's still going to engage. So when I tow, depending on the weight, I will do L9 if I'm towing the boat because it's lighter, but if I'm towing our larger trailer, I'll leave it in tow haul mode, and if it happens to kick in DFM here and there, well, so be it.
Okay, this one is from Norsvig. I hope I'm saying that right. Don, thanks for all your great content. I haven't got any cool mods yet, but I've got the exact same truck, a white 2021 minus the sunroof. I haven't seen you mention underbody protection or frame rest. Since you're in Canada, I figured you must have some tricks up your sleeve. I'm in North Dakota and we have the lovely road salt bonanza in the winter too. Is your frame a mess? If not, what's your secret? Thanks.
No secrets. I've talked about this before. So in Saskatoon, here in Saskatchewan, it's only this past winter where we've started to see them use a little more road salt. So this might become more of a concern or something that I talk about, down the road, whether it's with this vehicle, our vehicles, or a future vehicle. But our vehicles have all come with the wax protection on all the components underneath the frame. And from what I know, the wax and oil protection methods are the best, wax being better than oil. Many years ago, before I met Mrs. Donslife, I was much younger and handsomer, but I was working in a shop where we actually did undercoating. It was oil-based, and we had to, drill into the bottom of the door cavities and things like that. I know there's a water outlet there, but we had to drill some extra holes, and you spray some oil in, you put a rubber cap in, and it was really to inhibit the chance of rust forming. Again, wax is supposed to be the best. Mine's been holding up really good. I mean, there's some spots where the wax gets knocked off from, it could be my installs where I rubbed something and it came off. But with wax or oil, you're still gonna have to do inspections and maybe some touch-ups here and there. But I don't recommend, at least in my opinion, rubberized undercoatings, because even if there is a pinhole for water to travel through, from the backside of the component that you're covering, it can lead to concealed moisture and trapped moisture, and then you're gonna have rust behind a barrier that you don't even know is taking place. So I wouldn't do the rubberized coating for an entire frame or that type of thing. I would go with the wax or oil. Now, as for brands and that type of thing, honestly, I couldn't tell you what's best. I would just Google it and try and find out who's reviewing it at a high level. But I would go with wax if I had to put something on my truck right now. If there is a trouble area, which there's a couple spots here, like by the tow hitch and stuff, you can see some surface rust. I would, scuff that up, sand it off, and then I would put a wax of some kind on it.
So this one is from Lee for me.
No, I think it's 1LE for me. That's like, there's SLTs, there's 1LEs, there's
Sorry, I
could be a
butchered
Camaro.
it.
That's okay. We're learning here.
I'm learning.
What is it?
When you get a new truck?
I will get a new truck. It's most likely to be a GMC, a non-electric, okay, just to appease everybody there. But believe it or not, I have some unfinished business with my current AT4. I really want to test out some mods that I've done. You've seen me install these mods all the time, but how often do you get to see me use them? So when we go up to the woods in when we go camping this year, I want to do a bunch of lighting tests and have a closer look at that stuff with you. I have some big surprises on the horizon. I'm working on something for the interior. I've mentioned it in a comment already to somebody that had asked, but I'm going to leave it at that. So it's a little bit of a surprise and intrigue. It makes you want to subscribe to the channel. But for me to get a new truck sooner than later, these things need to happen, or a combination of these things. Maybe not all together, but some of them. Views need to increase quite a bit. We need more likes, we need more watch time. Like I said, right now it's paying for the payment on a car, but it's not gonna pay for a truck that's now worth $30,000, $40,000 more than when I bought mine. Because if I go big, I'm gonna go big for this channel, and we just need more growth for the channel. Interest rates need to be enticing to make sense. I'm not going to pull the trigger on something that is going to be a significant loss. I understand I can make content from it, but it still needs to be a smart decision for myself financially as well as the family. Again, I need somebody that's going to want to buy my truck. Now, are they going to want to buy it stripped at a reasonable price, or are they going to pay a reasonable price with all the mods kept on it? So there's that game that I got to play. And I still have powertrain warranty until February 2026. So
Hint, hint.
I'm going to try and sell it while it still has powertrain warranty. That would be my goal. So between now and February, so a year and a half from now, I want to be out of this truck into something else. Ideally, I don't know if that'll happen. Watch all my videos again, play all the playlists, like all the videos, share them with all your friends. Each of you find 10 more subscribers and we'll probably get there really quick. Or if I get a promotion at work. So yeah, I think we're on to the second last question. We just lost our camera person. So you're set up on a tripod, and that's why the perspective changed. So sometimes that stuff happens. This is reality, folks.
Okay, this one's from Chris Morales, 9481. Hey Don, new subscriber here. Just got my own 2024 AT4 and I've been trying to research whether or not the active exhaust is disabled with an aftermarket exhaust system. Any insight on this? I do have some thoughts. So my friend Evan, he works over at C-Tech. He has the active exhaust on his AT4. He was so happy. You have a 2022 Escalade? Well, sorry, but the 2023 came with the active exhaust. Right, of course. So why don't we just upgrade your exhaust? Yeah, no, we could just upgrade my Escalade. Oh, couple things. So if you put a catback exhaust system on your truck with the active exhaust, you would lose the active exhaust. You would probably get a module that hooks up to the wiring that goes to the valve that's located on the pipe after the muffler. You would cap that off and it would tell the computer that it's working normally when you're putting it in sport mode, for example, when that's when the valve opens and makes it louder. So yeah, you'd have to put that module onto that active valve circuit, and then you would have a louder all the time muffler
like I do with my boreless system, unless somebody is marketing their exhaust as retaining that valve, and then you would just plug it in as normal. I'm going to be doing something similar on my C8. That's in the works, and I'm pretty excited for it. Something new coming to the market. All right, this last question snuck under the radar in the 11th hour when I was preparing my notes for this video. I'm going to direct this one to you. So this is from, well, I'm going to say it wrong.
Jeremiah's hamburger.
Jeremiah Schamberger.
Isn't it Jeremiah's
Or is it
hamburger?
Jeremiah's hamburger?
Oh.
5932.
Sorry.
We're going to go with both. Both are correct. So why did you choose, it's asking me, a GM order truck to be your wife's daily driver? Or is it just a preference? Or have you considered other brands? Well, this is a mutual decision that we make when it comes to these bigger purchases. Not to say that if I don't want something that I can't have it, or she doesn't want something strong enough she can't have it, but we talked it out and we landed on things. But you tell the history of how we got to your current 2022 Escalade, but where we kind of started when it came to SUVs for your daily.
Well, I was always a Ford girl. I grew up a Ford girl. Had a little sports car when I was a teenager. And then when I bought my first vehicle brand new, it was a brand new Escape when they first came out, and I loved it. But there was like a couple little issues that were always going wrong because it was like the first model. That
Minor stuff.
Yeah,
It's
just
not
little things.
Nothing failing.
But then we had more kids.
We popped out a bunch of babies.
Yeah.
And
So
we needed
had
bigger.
Had to get something bigger. So I got a brand new Expedition, and that one was great for families. But we had issues with
Wasn't that the Triton engine?
Yeah, I
She
think
had a
so.
guy at the RV store argue with her
Oh,
about the
yes.
engine.
He's like,
we were looking
that's
for
a
our first
4.6,
camper.
and I said, no, it's a 5.4. And then he was trying to argue with me, and went and asked him,
Yeah,
and he's like, no, ask my wife, it's her vehicle.
It was like a victory, small
Yeah,
victory.
he was just being so misogynistic. Oh,
But the problems we had with that one were a couple things. So we had some premature rust around like the back handle and hatch. I've noticed on every Expedition since, even the newer ones, if they're a few years into their life, there's like spot rust just in areas where the sheet metal and like a handle might connect. Not on every single one, but I noticed it's pretty prominent. So it's just a known issue, at least in these parts, like Alberta, Saskatchewan, like the prairies of Canada.
and then I wanted to upgrade.
We upgraded again, yeah.
So I ordered another Expedition. The Limited had all the fancy things.
Cashmere.
Cashmere. It was
Yeah.
pretty.
Yeah, cashmere interior too.
Not pretty with kids.
No.
Not little
French
ones.
fries were okay, but anything else?
Oh, we found a lot of French fries in that vehicle when we sold it. But yeah, we ended up having a transmission issue and some shock issues.
Yeah, suspension issues.
Because it had air ride.
It had the air ride, yeah.
Suspension.
So some was warranty, some wasn't. The transmission wasn't under warranty. We were past the mileage, not the years.
Right, because we had moved really far away and going back and forth visiting family and moving. Put a lot of miles on there.
Yeah, so a new transmission. But before you get into the next one, the reason that, and this is where things kind of changed, before we get into that, I also had a Lincoln Mark LT truck. And after we just replaced the transmission on hers, those same symptoms for the transmission started to manifest themselves in my truck, in my Lincoln, which was essentially a fancy Ford F-150. We both thought it was a change, time to change.
Yeah.
So what'd you go with next? This is the one I surprised you.
Yes, he surprised me. So I didn't even know I liked GM at this point. And he had gotten me a 2011 Yukon Denali. It was so nice. It was the extended version. Nice big family.
Black on black.
Black on black. So it was a little less messy for kids, I guess, on the inside.
Harder to keep clean on the outside,
Yeah.
but it was better for
kids
kids
on
on
the
the inside. But we had a couple problems with that one.
Yes, so we got stranded at an airport coming back from the Dominican because my truck wouldn't start in the middle of winter.
And it kept starting on half the cylinders. And this is before I really knew what AFM was. And this is also at the time when they didn't have a little dashboard light that said that it was in like 4-cylinder mode or anything. So I recharged the battery and it fired up. So it was a misfire issue. Got it started, everything was fine for a while. And then we encountered a blizzard when your grandmother passed away and we were going to, take care of all that stuff. And this is like after hours, pitch black in the dark, in a blizzard. And it started misfiring and, it was in limp mode for a long part of that journey in northern Alberta. and we couldn't find a service shop the next day. So I did what I did when we were in Edmonton Strand at the airport, and I just recharged the battery and it fired up and it was good. And then we sold it again. I still didn't know about AFM and if it was related to lifters and stuff. It seemed to run fine after.
I mean, we had it for 3 years after the second time that it misfired, and never happened after that.
Yep, then we upgraded to what?
My 2016 Escalade.
Right.
And I didn't originally want an Escalade, but we needed something that would tow the boat. I wanted...
You test drove it and I said, we're not
Yeah.
buying anything, but you're just gonna try and see.
Well, I had originally wanted a Mercedes SUV, and it just wasn't gonna tow our boat as far as we needed to tow it in the summer. So my only option was another GM or a Ford. And then I said, well, what about the Escalades? We just happened to go look and they had one. So I said, okay, let's buy it.
We test drove it and she's like, you didn't bring your checkbook? But unfortunately, and I did that with intent, but unfortunately they do take credit card deposits.
Yes.
So we got an Escalade right off the lot. And then it had minor issues. There's a whole video series for the 2016 Escalade if you go to the Escalade playlist and look at the older videos. Nothing catastrophic.
It was more just the Cadillac Q system and infotainment system was kind of an issue sometimes.
So everything was fixed under warranty, and then we were really problem free, other than just touch sensitivity was off a little bit and the maps weren't really that up to date in it. And then we...
Right, and upgrading the maps was a whole...
debacle.
Yeah, it wasn't an easy...
Yeah, it wasn't over the air. It was like you have to take it in. Anyway, doesn't matter. You're into your new 2022 Cadillac Escalade Sport Platinum. We've wrapped it 3 times.
in 2 years.
Check out the latest wrap. I'll link it up above, but it's pretty awesome.
It's pretty.
So we, well, she loves this vehicle, right?
I do, but there is the Escalade V with the supercharger.
And I think we should
I
end
did that.
today's video. Yeah, well...
We need a lot more likes and a lot more subscribers.
Well, so on that note, I think we have to end today's video before it starts costing us some money we didn't plan on spending. Escalade V, come on. Well, that would be cool.
I think it'd be great.
So what do we say? Take them out?
Please like this video. Oh, please hit the like button.
Yeah, don't look at me for permission. Talk to them.
Hit that like button. Please consider subscribing, and we'll talk to you next time. Why do I have such a hard time?